Well, our final speaker before our coffee break and before we break into two sections for the midsection of today's conference, we are joined by Michelle Lee, who's the Acting Manager, Digital Content and Social Media Strategy for the Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet. She's here to talk about zooming out, identifying areas of improvement and transforming them into opportunities for growth. Michelle's bio, of course, is on the app, which I encourage you all to use. Would you please now join me in welcoming Michelle Lee to the stage? Thank you.
Yes? Can everybody hear me? Yes? Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle. I lead the social media and strategy. Sorry, I just can't leave my phone. It's just horrible, isn't it? I might as well keep my notes up here. That's handy. All right. The Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, we call it PM&C, so I'll be referencing PM&C quite a bit throughout this presentation. So what am I talking about today? We are talking about zooming out, a reminder that we all need regularly to keep our social media strategy sharp. Sorry guys, I'm really tired. We just ran the Royal Visit social media last week and I'm just like frazzled, but it was exciting and awesome. Okay, does this button work? There we go. I'm going to share a bit of my experience with technology up till today, and I'm going to need a little bit of your help today. So think about the morning tea and get really excited about it, and use that energy of thinking about morning tea to help me with this. Okay, so who was using computers before Google was invented? Wow. Okay. Oh, if you're looking at this online, please throw a fire emoji if it's true. Okay, who had a MySpace account? Wow, okay. Did everybody sort their top 7 friends list or? Yep. Okay. Anybody had LiveJournals, Blogspot? Oh yeah. I'm glad this kind of disappeared because I used it as a Dear Diary and it was just really embarrassing. Here's a good one. Who had Yahoo GeoCities, the page? What was your page about?
It's lost to the mysteries of time.
Yours?
Star Wars?
Star Wars. Amazing. Ross, you had your hand up too?
Sorry, I'm so sorry for the interrupt this. Could you please use a microphone because I'm missing everything the audience is saying.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
Sure. So I used Yahoo GeoCities in school as a bit of an IT intro. So mine was more about my favorite color, my favorite animal. It's really embarrassing and lame. Anywho, what I'm bringing this up today because it was all easy and accessible, right? We all ended up getting our own web domains, most of us, like we had our own URLs. It was easy. Who here studied a comms, business, marketing, journalism degree? Keep those hands up. And of those comms, marketing, business, or journalism degrees, which one had social media units in those? Yeah. And those are the oldies. I mean, OGs. Same. So for those that had our hands up, we were a generation of many firsts in the digital technology world, right? So it was exciting. We kept up. We joined all the latest platforms. And, it was fun. We connected from people around the world and all our friends and family, and that's why we keep doing it today. But Then you have smartphones, video recording, et cetera, et cetera. So you fast forward to now, it's no wonder that we're social media managers that can basically do everything, right? We have many hats. We can do videos, we can take photos, we can be in the videos and be hosts. We can manage many lines of stakeholders. We can, there's all these like online communities you can manage as well. So it's no wonder that we are amazing AF, right? Yeah. So that's why, as you can tell, I'm not Australian based on my accent. So we would have slightly different, but it's very similar upbringing to where we are today with technology. So it's important to create strategies to be more effective in what we do, both in life and professionally. And so, at the moment, I'm going to talk about strategy for social media. Please enjoy the internet cats. I've done this for you guys. So there's no one strategy to rule them all, isn't that right? But, and I will go through all of these in detail, but a lot of the times we all start from the corporate mission. And what is the corporate mission? It's a strong statement, a tagline to encompass why you do what you do every day in the work that you do, right? So for most of us, we're not business owners, or well, maybe we might be, or we're not the seniors in our government departments, so we don't have to worry about getting the corporate mission. It's already there. We just need to grab it, and then we'll work on our next strategy, which is the corporate and social responsibility strategy, otherwise known as the CSR strategy. By the way, PMNC's corporate mission is to improve the lives of all Australians. What is the CSR strategy? CSR strategy puts people first in your messaging. So in the private sector, it could illustrate how, that your business is not just for profit. For example, it could show how it takes stances on important issues, how it works with sustainability, how it values your employees, if there's any current events happening, what their stances is on it. So it shows a responsible business built on strong ethics, and it operates with integrity. So what that means is that we should take that and use it for a CSR strategy for social media, which is what we did. So we answered the question, what is your responsibility for the Australian public to understand about your department or agency's work? We worked out 3 key areas that became our 3 main objectives for our social media content. And I'll show this to you. There we go. So our 3 key objectives are the colored boxes up there. First one in the green box, increase engagement with the community. Second one, to make it clear what PMNC does for the average Australian. Actually, most people don't even know what PMNC does in general, so we make this as one of our objectives. And third, of course, to be the employer of choice. And in the gray boxes, you can see they all enrich PMNC's image. And for the first 2 objectives, to connect with people in our community, humanize the work we do, create a positive impact in our community, retain and increase social media user engagement and loyalty, and of course for employer of choice, greater employee productivity and morale, greater employee engagement, enhanced ability to attract top talent, and also to promote public sector leadership. So what do we do with this information now that we have it? We create a content plan from it. Come on, button. So I've just taken one small example from our plan here. So with increased engagement with the community, we have a content theme. First one, we have days of importance. With the tactics, you can try and be as specific as possible if you can. So here, for Days of Importance, we share personal stories, we highlight why PMNC is recognizing this day, and we highlight the work that PMNC has done in this area. So if you have a lot of these for all your other objectives as well, you've got a pretty solid content plan for the rest of the year. Trying to identify what other departments are doing in Australia as well and around the world to give yourself some ideas. Social media health checks. These come in handy when you want to view the social media strategy from another area, business department, and you don't have the analytics to. So it's kind of a peep at what they're doing. So basically, you could try this on your own social media or others similar to yours. So this is where you start getting really good at recognizing patterns. So you don't need a full analytics platform to see, if you look at their follower and engagement, they don't have to have a huge follower count, but if their engagement is great, something is working out really well there. So have a look, go through their feed. What worked better per channel? Did it change over time? So were they using photos more and now they've changed to video? How is that working for them? Are they using infographics? Are they doing more staff stories? Because that's more humanistic, is that get better? So also try and find out what's missing from their content. What can you try? What can you take from that? So identify some quick wins for yourself. So a quick win I want to share with you from mine is that I used to work for a not-for-profit organization, small organization that is for arborists. Does anyone know what an arborist is? Yep, sorry, tree surgeon? Yeah, sort of, yeah. So they make sure these guys are certified properly. So they make sure the last resort is to cut the tree down. So they want to make sure the trees are happy and healthy. So I worked for them. And one of the things they did every year was a tree climbing competition every year. I'm like, what? And so my first year, I was just like stunned watching these guys just jump and run around the trees. And I'm like, this is awesome. Why has nobody heard of this? I haven't heard of it. Has anybody heard of a tree climbing competition? So in the second year, I'm like, all right, I'm prepared for this. And I worked in admin there, so I didn't care. I love social media. So I went in and I did like Facebook Lives. I had my DSLR, I was taking photos in between, then took my phone back out, did videos. And then when the competitors won, I did like interviews with the winners. And that was all on Facebook because that was their main channel. And as I was editing the videos, and I was like, you know what? Let's have a look at what's on their YouTube channel. And it was just stuff, like boring tree stuff. Like, you know what? I'll just whack these videos onto YouTube too. Because that's a great thing about not being in government. You just like upload stuff without asking. And well, that worked out for me because not long after that, it got a lot of attention in and around Australia, around the world, because Red Bull Australia came knocking and said, hey, we saw your videos on YouTube and that looks awesome. Can we make an extreme tree climbing competition with you guys? And we're like, hell yeah. So yeah, long story short, we worked with them to create this competition. We made a contract for a few years. So each year, the competition would go to a regional Australian town for the climbers to run the competition. And every year, it brought hundreds and thousands of dollars into the regional town's economy. And it brought in climbers from around the world, Germany, US, Japan. It was like insane, like how did this? So without me just doing a quick little win, like just whack it onto YouTube, we would have had all of that. So, yeah, sometimes, just it works out if you do it first and ask for forgiveness later. All right. Oh yeah, by the way, that's what it looked like. Next one, your social media overarching strategy. Most of you would probably have this already. It's good to have a look at it every year if you can. So identify who your audience really are and what you want to achieve on each platform and why. Try and figure out if this has changed from last year. You can always tweak it. Also, what is your tone of voice? Will it be consistent? It can vary per channel depending on your audience. So I know a few departments here have a different tone of voice when it comes to X or Facebook. And then they're more fun on Instagram. And that's because the audience is a bit younger there. So you can do that. There's no hard rule where you can always just be so serious or you can't be fun. There can be moments where you can be fun. So outline your observations from the social media health checks and support them with current trends and statistics. So it's also important to have platform-specific strategies, so not one just to rule them all, as I said before, because your YouTube strategy will differ to your X strategy, not just because the audience is different, but because they serve your content differently. The algorithms work differently on how people see it and when, to whom. So get different strategies right. I know, we're so granular. Then we work on the individual social media content strategies for key priorities. So remember the tactics and content themes that we talked about before in the CSR strategy. So we would have a content plan for each one based on that. So write down why it's a key priority, how you're achieving it, try and be very, very specific because this is going to be your full content plan for the year. And this is where you also outline the processes with other stakeholders, other teams. Get it right now so you don't have to talk about it later. It's like, oh, I thought we were doing this. Like, no, we were doing this. Like, no, we've talked about this earlier of the year. Everybody signed on to it. You're stuck with this plan. Come on. But this is important because if we didn't have this, our guest of government strategy wouldn't reach 4 million people organically without a plan like this. It was all over the place before. So as a reminder, keep zooming out. Make sure all your strategies feed back into the corporate mission. Next, I invite you to zoom out and see how you utilize technology to improve your own processes to get the best out of your work. So technology's, it's not meant to be a burden. It's meant to be an enabler to help you save time, to do your best job. I've got some examples here. Obviously, there's a lot more out there, but these are some that I've used before. So I want to talk about the time and project management platforms, Jira in particular. I worked for a finance company that had a lot of moving parts, and they worked in an agile environment. So their IT development team used Jira to keep track of work tickets. So naturally, for some reason, my marketing and comms team also used Jira, and then we also adopted the agile environment. So we had fortnightly sprints. So fortnightly sprints, we'll pull up Jira, and we'll go through each campaign. And that worked for us because there's elements for website, elements for Google Paid, elements for social media, elements for, we were organizing and shooting TV commercials as well. So lots going on. Might be overkill for some, but it worked for us. But hey, if you like a good spreadsheet, I like coloring my spreadsheets, so you might be one of those guys. It might work for you. So Jira might be overkill for some, but see what works for you. But the bottom line is make sure you have something to keep track and to help you move things along. And my favorite knowledge base is social media today for news. I love watching all my colleagues and people in the industry on LinkedIn sharing their knowledge. And also, there's plenty of community practices out there. We have our own called GovSocial, and I will touch on that in a little bit. Social media management platforms. Anyone here uses Sprinklr? Not a lot, yeah, but a few. Hootsuite? Great, nice. So we use Sprinklr at the moment. I've used so many over the years, and I particularly love Sprinklr because it does a lot. It's very comprehensive. I won't spend too much time talking about Sprinklr, or I may have to ask for a 5% commission fee. So at the moment, I run all of the social media for Prime Minister and Cabinet, as well as the Australian government social media channels. So, team of one. We're all used to that. So I need to be as efficient as possible. So Sprinklr gives me my time back. It helps streamline a lot of my work. It makes it really easy for me. So what I particularly love with Sprinklr is its collaboration function. So you can tag your colleagues at various points in a campaign to get them to edit and check work all within the platform. So that saves a whole bunch of back and forth emails. I love that. Another thing I love is the dashboards and for listening and reporting. Very, very comprehensive. You know, they break it down to the emotions people are feeling in their comments. So it's really in-depth. And another thing that I enjoy Sprinklr for is that it adds a lot of value to the rest of the department, not just for the social media team. So Sprinklr, through all of these dashboards, provides a lot of usable data that helps our line areas, such as the Office for Women, to assist them with their policy making and decision making. And that's a big win for us when it comes to using a very expensive platform. So yeah, so this technology gives us our time back, which we can spend, you know, giving more comprehensive advice and build better relationships with our stakeholders. So we're not just about, hey, can you guys post this? And yeah, thanks. You know, we actually have time to help create and craft a better messaging for our line areas. Okay, guys, so we've talked about zooming out on strategy. We've talked about zooming out on technology. Next thing I want you to zoom out on is you. So the number one thing to elevate your social media strategy, the area you must continuously improve and transform first and foremost, is you. Remember how I've talked about where we were to where we are today? It's a great representation of what imposter syndrome feels like. There's at least once in our lives that we felt like that, where we're trying to talk to our senior execs about TikToks, or explaining what no cap means, or Riz is in or out. Sometimes I feel like that with my parents too. But you're a lot more than your meme knowledge or trending words and phrases, although it's very important. Basically, my life is, my 90% of my brain is like that. But what I invite you to ask is, will your skills now be relevant in the future? So I invite you to bring that curiosity back. Back when GeoCities first started, or when Facebook was in its early days, it was still exciting, it's still fun, you just want to be part of it, you want to learn. Nowadays, a new social media platform comes up and you're like, Another one I have to keep up with. I'm not doing that stupid dance. I'm not taking a photo with my back and front camera so that my friends can do it at the same time. I'm not working on my Snap score, I don't care. But it's easy to get complacent but technology is growing at a much faster rate than when we were younger, right? It's easy to stay with the old strategies. Why do we have to update our strategy? It's working right now. Or maybe it's really hard to sell new ideas to senior leadership. Or maybe sometimes it's just too hard, like things keep changing. Meta business manager. Just kidding. But it's like things are just changing so much. Sometimes it's just a lot to keep up. I get it. But, if we don't try, we risk lagging behind. And that means that your messaging won't be as effective to your audience. Okay? If you don't know Stephen is an entrepreneur, author, motivational speaker. He also hosts a podcast, Diary of a CEO. Here in this LinkedIn post, he says, change is an inevitable part of life and business. Those that actively adapt an experimentation mindset will go 10 times further than those who don't. In this next slide, I'm going to be playing a video. Stephen's on an interview with a radio host named Chris Evans, and I was disappointed it wasn't the Captain America Chris Evans. It's a very different Chris Evans. But take note how Stephen talks about how quickly futurists talk about how quickly technology is moving. So what are futurists? Futurists don't have a crystal ball. They study trends to make predictions about what's happening into the far future, right? So unlike analysts or strategists who look at the immediate goals, the immediate future, futurists zoom out and they look decades ahead. And why does this help? This helps organizations adapt and prepare for this change. So let's have a look at what he says. Do I press on that?
Okay, so the world is changing at an ever-increasing rate. This whole AI conversation, the Web3, the blockchain, all of these interesting words. And what I've noticed over time, and when I looked at some of the stats from Ray Kurzweil, who's one of the world's leading futurists, is the rate of change in the world is only accelerating. He predicts that if you're 10 today, by the time you're 60, you'll experience a year's change in 11 days. In the 21st century, we'll experience 20,000 years of change. So if you're a kid, or if you're trying to give advice to your kid, what do you say to them? What book is going to stand the test of that accelerating change? What we need is a different attitude towards change, which is what I call leaning in. In my life, across like 1 decade now, there's been 2 tectonic shifts. The first for me was social media. And I built a business in that industry because I lent in. When it sounded confusing and strange and there was pessimism, I lent in and built a company there. We don't lean in because of dissonance, this psychological feeling of friction when something new conflicts with what we know about the world or our identity. So what we tend to do to resolve that dissonance, that cognitive friction, is to lean out and dismiss the thing. So you hear AI coming and because of the friction it will cause you, instead of just holding the dissonance, which is holding 2 conflicting ideas, the human brain has to dismiss the thing causing the friction. The issue with that is when innovation comes, it always creates dissonance. And we're seeing that now with AI. We saw it with the internet. I remember watching the videos of people trying to explain the internet, the pessimism and the dismissal of it. We saw it when the iPhone was created and the CEO of Microsoft laughed on air and said a 500, 600 pound mobile phone, they have no chance. I love our strategy. That dissonance
By the way, he's no longer at Microsoft.
He's no longer at Microsoft.
Surprise,
and the iPhone
surprise.
stole market share, right? It's so important to understand that feeling. And even more recently, in the last 2 years, I've experienced a huge amount of dissonance when this thing called blockchain technology came out. People selling these monkey pictures on the internet for 6 figures. What I did because of principles, not because of how I felt, was I lent in. And that led to a company called ThirdWeb. We've raised $31 million. The company has 50 employees in San Francisco. It's valued at hundreds of millions of dollars in our last investment raise. And because I lent into that dissonance, that feeling of, that something bizarre was happening, I was able to build companies. That's what we should be telling our kids. It's a mindset towards change we'll need for the 21st and 22nd century, when change is going to be at lightning speed. A book takes 2-3 years to publish. Strategies and tactics are outdated by the time this hits the shelves. But that lean-in attitude towards disruption, I think, is the most important thing I teach my kids. That curiosity, and then how to respond when new information conflicts with your existing information. And that's what I call lean-in.
Right. So lean in, keep attending those webinars, research trends regularly upskill, try new things. If you can't try it with your work social media, use your personal one or create test accounts. Just keep learning. This is my final slide, so I thought you'd enjoy mooting. Building the right culture and processes for success. Why is it important to create the right culture? Because when we post that piece of content on social media, a lot of hands has already touched that piece of content before it gets to that point. So you need to create great relationships with everybody up and down the line. So build up your team with your team. Work on those soft skills, right? Keep your camera on when you're in meetings. Connect with your colleagues. Get to know them. Does anybody here call your colleagues just for chats? Good. So on my team's chat, I often share news, trends, social media updates. I'll just throw in a social media video just to get them to discuss what they think about it. So I bring them into my world. I kind of need to, since I'm the only social media person there. And that gets them thinking. When they do their work, they think about social media too. They'll go like, oh, this might be good for social media, Michelle. I'm like, you're right, thanks. I'm going to post that. So regularly work with them. Now, with working from home, does anybody work from home or work remotely here? Nice. I work remotely from Adelaide 100% of the time. So, as you know, all my colleagues are in Canberra. So I do everything I can to keep connected. And it works because the 1 or 2 times a year I go to Canberra and I see them in person, we're like old friends. It's like there is no difference if I'm on camera or off camera. So try and find ways to stay connected, or if you're not sure, ask your manager for opportunities to do so. And lastly, I do want to touch on finding your tribe, which is the GovSocial community. So we have a wonderful community of practice for social media experts in government. So we get together. I organize quarterly meetings. We get together and just share our experiences. We hash out problems together. Sometimes we just vent because we need a good rant sometimes with everything social. But also, we have guest speakers. We get guest speakers in, such as YouTube. We get in to talk about optimizing video. We get people in to talk about optimizing accessibility for social media, things like best practices. So a lot of people have found a lot of helpful information from our quarterly meetings. And we have over 100 people join in each time, and it's still growing. So I encourage you guys to join too if you can. And that's me.
Lot to love about that presentation. I think for me, one of the big things was that those soft skills and the importance of those. That was really important. And I was playing a little game with myself. I was trying to think of what other memes were coming up. And I was so disappointed I didn't see pesto up there.
I'm sorry. Yes.
So,
I blame King Charles. I was just too busy.
who's gone to see pesto? No one?
I hope somebody has pesto on their
Apparently he's
presentation
losing.
today.
Pesto is the penguin at the Melbourne Aquarium. He's absolutely huge and very fluffy and super cute. We might have time for one question. At the front, thank you.
This is a very quick one. The GovSocial community, how do we actually join that? So we have a Victorian Government Social Working Group. We meet monthly. There's 150 of us. I'd love to plug this in there. Could you give us more information about how to actually join?
Yes, just email me.
Great question. That was a very short one. So one down the back as well. And we'll do a plug for IABC as well, a great community of communicators globally.
Hi, Michelle. I'm Lizzie. I'm from RMIT University. You spoke about being a team of one, and I really resonate with that with the work I'm currently doing and, having to wear multiple hats. Managing such a big organisation and, how do you prioritise your social strategies and the work that you do?
Good idea. Good question. So obviously I have my strategies in place quite well, as you can see from the first few slides. But it's also being with a great team. So we have daily, we call it a board meeting. There's no board, it's actually a whiteboard, but the whiteboard's gone now. We just call it a board meeting still. So daily meetings with our team, we talk every day. So even though I'm one person in social media, my comms team supports me really well. And we communicate every day. So I don't feel a lot of pressure. So yeah, have a great support system around you.
That's great. We're out of time. Michelle will be sticking around, though, for the coffee break. So if you do have some questions for Michelle, grab her in the coffee break, which is coming up in a couple of seconds. But for the moment, would you please join me in thanking Michelle for her presentation? Thank you.